Hi there, and welcome back to the Sustainability Show here on LinkedIn. I'm your host, Editor-in-Chief of Sustainability Magazine, Blaise Hope. And joining me today again is March 8 Editor-in-Chief, Lucy Buchholz. Lucy, how are you?
Hi everyone, and hi Blaise. I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Awesome, and happy to have you back.
Thank you very much. Happy to be back.
Great. Now, before we sort of move on with the rest of the show, we are all watching in horror at the events in Ukraine, and we are all learning the reality of what happens. I'd just like to say a few words about the invasion. Along with the rest of the world, we're horrified by events going on there and stand with the people of Ukraine. Our job as journalists is to cover the topics as a public service. Our audience is a business audience, but because this is a war conducted by an autocrat who has wielded an energy club, we would be derelict in our duty if we did not discuss this frankly. What is the best way forward to create a future where this cannot happen again? The business community and governments have gotten together to try to deal with Putin and Russia, and that collaboration will be crucial to the future. So, what do you think will be the likeliest outcome for energy? Our poll today focuses on just that. Please don't forget, during the show, we're going to be reminding you to get into it and to vote in our LinkedIn poll. It is, what is the likely outcome of countries' energy policy following the aftermath of current global events? And we put three options for you. Natural gas prices rise and then collapse. Renewable adoption accelerates worldwide. And nuclear energy surges in popularity. The link to the poll is there with you. Please do vote in that. We also love to hear your views in the comments. I know some of you have already managed to have a bit of a debate since we first posted the poll up yesterday. But if you have a question for me, we're also going to have an Ask Blaise Anything feature at the end. Lucy and I will have a chat, but we will also look and try to answer any questions that you put out in the comments. But we're going to start today by taking a look at the latest sustainability news. All right, so we're going to go through some of our most interesting and most trending stories on the web. Some of these about very interesting topics, some of them about stuff that's on trend, and some kind of bolt from the blue. But first up is Dreamcore. Dreamcore celebrates Black entrepreneurs in sustainability. This has been a very high-performing story, and it is a story that it is a story we covered both on our website and also in our magazine. We have a feature on Dreamcore that is coming out in April. But Dreamcore was actually founded by Van Jones, who's a very famous American political commentator, activist, and lawyer. If you've ever watched CNN, you've probably seen him on there. He started this, and it's about elevating Black entrepreneurs, bringing them together so they become more visible. And we've been very proud to be able to play a little bit of a role in amplifying their voices. Michelle Romero, the Chief Programs Officer for Dreamcore and its program Green for All, which celebrates Black entrepreneurs in green technology, spoke to myself, more of that in the magazine, and also submitted this opinion editorial about some of the entrepreneurs that they work with, all of whom I also spoke with and all of whom are featured more in depth in our upcoming feature. But that includes Rob Cabrera, who was a refugee from the Rwandan genocide as a child. It includes Mina McCullum, who's an actual rocket scientist, as people like to point out, but certainly highly intelligent, motivated, and extremely successful entrepreneur, Rhonda Lyons. And this, came out during Black History Month, during February. But it's certainly something that we hope to continue to elevate and to have a continuing relationship with them. Then the next on, from a completely different angle, much more recent story, but it touches on a big issue. This is how HSBC fights emissions through financing energy clients. There's several elements here. Some of our most successful stories have actually been the ones where we combine people who work within sustainability itself, going in to try to get some corporate lessons that they can then put into practice. It's also been from financial professionals who are trying to get a gauge on how they can better understand and better work with ESG objectives, sustainability in general, how to evaluate it, how to help clients or help lenders program things out. HSBC, obviously an enormous global bank, and it is focusing its efforts on helping energy clients transition towards net zero objectives, but also by incentivizing more effectively the emissions reduction strategies. And finally is a story about the circular economy. The circular economy, well, this story is what makes a circular economy circular rather than green. This is a big topic, and there's a reason that we decided to unpack it, and we are continuing our coverage of it in a series of both evergreen and current articles. Circular economy is really important because it's a concept people need to understand in order to evaluate. It means eliminating waste. If I build a shoe, another foreshadowing of a feature we have coming up with Alfina footwear in shoes that are fully biodegradable, recyclable, remanufacturable, luxury trainers that can be worn for any event, day or night. And they put circular economy at the heart of their shoe. What that means is everything that is produced, it exists longer and it is able to find its way back into a supply chain. So it doesn't end up in landfill. And so it operates as long as possible in its current life cycle so that it does not generate more emissions than it needs to in order to get things done. Lucy, I know I'm slightly putting you on the spot here, but with your coverage of March 8, I wonder if you've had the opportunity to speak to some entrepreneurs who had some role in the circular economy.
At the moment, we haven't actually spoken to anybody in that industry. We have done a feature on net zero, and we have been really having a look into how other industries can prioritize their net zero targets. So that's actually in the first issue of March 8. But of course, it's one of our key pillars that we want to put the spotlight on in March 8 is ESG. So we're definitely going to be including more of those kind of things.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know that you guys have an extremely exciting year coming up, and we are going to talk a lot more about that. For now, though, we are going to jump right to a quick ad break with some fascinating videos for you. Please don't forget, go vote in our poll on LinkedIn, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Enjoy the videos.
I started Interos in 2005 with the idea to solve a problem. Companies were really investing in technology that was within the building, so inventory management systems, transportation management systems, point-of-sale systems, but they weren't really understanding that as the United States started offshoring manufacturing, we became part of this global economy where you are now doing business with companies and countries around the world that you don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing. And if you think about what happened in 2020, where you had a global pandemic that none of us have ever been through before, and you literally had Apple go online and say they were going to miss their earnings because they couldn't get product out of different parts of the world. And then you had vaccine manufacturing that had to spin up out of nowhere, and there was no resiliency in that supply chain. There is a real understanding that risk and risk in the supply chain and our extended business partners is very prevalent, and it's absolutely a C-suite problem. What Interos does is we ingest tens of thousands of data sources at click speed because that's how fast things are happening in the world. We provide a visualization of the world's largest business relationship graph, and then we monitor continuously throughout every day of the week, every day of the year, to understand across multiple risk factors, everything from cybersecurity to financial viability of the supply chain to geographic risk, not just for the supplier or the business partner that they've chosen to do business with, but all of the companies that that company is doing business with as well, which provides a transparency for operational resilience, as well as supply chain risk, brand integrity, and just continuity of operations, which is very important in today. 10 years from now, I fully expect every organization to be leveraging the Interos I-score to understand the health of their supply chain and the global ecosystem that they operate within.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome back. You saw a clip there of Jennifer Biskegli. She is the founder and CEO of Interos. Obviously, I've had the privilege of speaking to her in a formal setting twice, and we were on stage together at Sustainability Live. More about that later. For a fireside discussion that was a fascinating and incredible entrepreneur with an unreal product that allows you to view supply chain risk in real time. The savings in threat detection and avoidance that this delivers, saved costs, reduction of emissions. Interos allows you to identify emissions and potential emissions in your supply chain so you can act ahead. I mean, it's an incredible technology. And it's wonderful to speak to Jennifer and to get to have these resources to draw on. An absolute friend of the magazine. I think, Lucy, did you get to meet her at Sustainability Live?
Unfortunately, I didn't actually. I did get to see her speak, but I think so many people, after speaking to her and everything, that unfortunately I didn't get to. But definitely at the next one, I'll make sure that I connect with her. But she'd be a great person to have in our magazine as well in March 8th. She's absolutely influential, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, talk about an influential female leader who is changing the way that global business operates. It's hard to think of a better example.
Exactly.
And that's a recurrent theme that will keep coming up. Just a quick jump to our comments. We've got David Goodman attending from Palm Beach, Florida. Great to have you watching, Dave. Dave actually submitted an opinion editorial for us about the role of SMEs play in sustainability. We talk a lot about big companies. Much of the world economy is made up of slightly smaller companies. So good to have the passionate and avid advocates amongst us here too. Now, don't forget, if you haven't already, to vote in our poll. But Lucy, I know I've largely been speaking so far this episode, but we had a discussion coming into today about how this has made us think all about energy mix around the world.
Exactly. I mean, I think energy is the topic that's on everybody's lips at the moment, isn't it? So it's something that everybody's just talking about. But obviously, we had the discussion about nuclear, didn't we? And especially Boris Johnson's aim to make the UK especially less dependent on that. So I wonder if you could just tell me a bit more. I'll play devil's advocate.
Sure. No, I mean, yeah, we all know that, well, for example, we had a big story on Germany, and, we look at countries' energy policy and how they're evolving with what's happening now, but with what's happened in the past, to try to understand their different postures and what that can mean for the future. Germany was a great example because they, of course, are very reliant on Russian natural gas. They're close to Russia. There's a direct pipeline. But they also rejected the label of green energy for nuclear technology. And in fact, having been in the process of phasing it out, they had closed 3 of their last 6 reactors. They were going to close the last 3. And this was a pretty, firm commitment that they had to renewables and to gas as a cleaner alternative to other fossil fuels. They're now rethinking this. And at the same time, UK, which has had a sort of neutral position, Boris Johnson going and speaking directly to nuclear industry bosses. This is a trend happening worldwide, actually. France was always heavily into nuclear and has been for a while and is going to continue clearly to do that. But we talk about... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to just say, how will it affect everybody else? How will it affect Greater Europe and everything like that?
Well, I do think we forget sometimes that we have lived in the age of oil, but really the age of fossil fuels for the past 2 centuries. And our world has been defined by our access to energy for electricity, basically, and for industrial activity. As the world globalized, that was fueled by effectively selling energy. Conflicts are often started over resources. Not that what's happening in Ukraine is really anything to do with that, but resources have been used as a tool in it. Effectively, Russia has a lot of natural resources, a poorly developed economy that is in one, in a small microcosm, very advanced, but in another, almost pre-industrial in large parts of the country, but has had a lot of oil, a lot of gas, and has sold that around the world. And, after the Soviet Union collapsed, the feeling was we want to do business with this new country. And what that happened was, well, they've got loads of gas and we don't. And so we can have a steady, reliable supply. But this goes back into what Jennifer was saying, supply chain resiliency. When COVID hit, you started to think about where everything comes from. Well, if people are afraid to stop an autocrat because of gas, or that makes them hesitate or allows them to build the confidence to do something like what's happening now, you have to rethink being reliant on it. And this is where this is where renewables come in. This is where a sustainable strategy comes in. I think now the general public is really starting to see this.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
I think, whether it changes or not, I mean, do you think, I don't know, do you think from your perspective as, more of a B2C magazine, a consumer magazine, March 8, do you think that your readership would expect things to change now, or do they feel detached?
I think everybody is expecting a little bit of change, isn't it? So I think at the moment, I would definitely say that they'd probably be looking to changes. It's so hard, obviously, as a new platform. We're still really developing our understanding and everything. But I'd like to say that, change is expected.
Well, change, would be, obviously, this is the heart of the March 8 mission and the sustainability mission for gender equality in general. I think that, oppressive regimes, this is also highlighting other global events that have focused on, for example, the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban, about bringing the causes that we want to define our future to the forefront. And it's funny that energy, as much as war, is coming to the forefront of this. Anyway, one more thing I want to say, though, about Ukraine and Russia is this is the breadbasket, not just of Europe, but of the world. This is where a huge portion of grains, of wheat, all cereals are grown in Ukraine and in Russia. And it's the planting season. There's the harvesting season coming up, and we've had a couple of bad harvests last couple of years. This is going to cause more inflation around the world. It's going to affect poorer countries. This is a big deal. And what's interesting is we have to think about what we want the world to look like after this. It's, again, resiliency of supply chains. And, rich countries are going to do fine in the end. But poorer countries, who are going to be concerned now about how do we make sure that we can feed our people, which is not a position we ever thought we'd be in at this stage. I'm going to jump to the comments. We had a nice, healthy debate before the show even begun about what we felt like the reaction to this would be. And one thing that came up immediately was renewables as a fashionable but inconsistent source. In the past, this has definitely been true, but it's, technology evolves, and with the investment that we've seen happening is you're starting to be able to rely more on an energy mix that includes solar, wind, and you don't have to be in the world's sunniest place to capture that energy effectively. If you're somewhere with mountains and lots of water, then great, you can get hydroelectric power. But the key thing is efficiency and being able to spread things through a developed power grid, as well as capturing and storing the energy itself. And these technological advances have really massively moved forward. Going back to Dreamcore for a second, Reginald Parker, who's one of the entrepreneurs highlighted, has developed a technology where, now my terminology is going to be off, but the solar panels are twice as effective at capturing energy than the current global standard, the ones that he's developed. And and it's sort of similar like to the Impossible Burger. The cost of that per pound went from $50,000 to, $10 within a course of 3 or 4 years. We're starting to see this happen, and that's why it's being reflected in countries' energy policy. We also have people who are tuning in from New Delhi. Great to see you here, Anil Girdar, and shouting out his wish to support large corporates, meeting regulatory reporting requirements. Reporting requirements is another big topic that tends to come up a lot, but I've rambled a fair bit about energy and about Ukraine now, but one thing I want to go back to is crops. Talked about the breadbasket of Europe. I wonder, have you ever heard of the company Bayer?
Lucy? Yes, of course, yeah. They actually were a speaker for the March 8 event.
A speaker, there we go, a speaker at the March 8 event. Well, we're going to have a look at a clip now from the Q&A segment from Thomas Zaborowski's talk at Sustainability Live. I actually introduced his talk and got to host a panel with him. He's the head of sustainability excellence at Bayer Crop Science. Bayer, massive chemicals company, a hugely important and influential role These are the fertilizers that allow the developing world to farm and to eat, as well as everybody else. He's a wonderful man. I had the privilege of hosting on stage for this talk and for a panel discussion. Please enjoy this video.
I rarely see these technologies used in isolation, though. Is there any effort to decouple technologies so that farmers can really focus on kind of lowering inputs as opposed to focusing on yields?
Well, I think that the main answer will be that any company would like that one size fits all, no? But actually it's not the case, especially in farming. So I think that you will see from new launches that we will have that our technologies will adapt to far much more. Where there was a picture at the beginning where we said seeds and technology together with crop protection and digital, and then we call it tailored solutions. It's not that the tailored solution is one that will be all. I think that each farmers will have to decide what type of scheme or system they would like to implement. What is a reality is that the decoupling, you can choose from different alternative or from different aspects, but it will not be that you can do or produce efficiently without one of those tools. So maybe you can select one type of seed, you can select special crop protection, or you can select your tools, but you will have to equalize that. It will not be, okay, we consider that all size of productions are important, but the combination of the three is what makes this more sustainable.
Welcome back to the Sustainability Show. That was Thomas Zaborowski from Bayer. Fascinating talk, and he got a spirited Q&A during that discussion about numerous things, and that was just a fraction of it. Please go have a look on our website, and we have lots of videos from lots of talks, also on YouTube from Sustainability Live. It was a fantastic event. More on that and the expo later. But Lucy, obviously, we had a great time down at Tobacco Dock in London. What was your favorite part of Live?
I think actually it would be impossible to actually just pinpoint one moment. I think it was the first show that I went to, for BizClik, and I think it was just such a lovely atmosphere, and I just loved just jumping into the different sessions and just hearing all these different speakers from just so many different areas, and it was lovely, even on the really smaller stages as well. I think that was where the one that I really enjoyed the most, because it was so intimate and you really got to have a feel for what everybody was saying.
Yeah, I mean, that it was the feeling, right? Because for a lot of people, it was that first time coming back into an in-person setting.
Exactly, yeah, and it was so lovely to actually just be around, like-minded people that were all there for the same purpose. And it was a lovely feeling, and it was really great to feel that.
Yeah, I mean, really a wonderful time. It's also great. We've got loads of people tuning in from all over the world. Hello from Saudi Arabia. Wonderful. We had New Delhi earlier. I think we've got Bangalore now, or it may be an answer there. Don't forget, by the way, to vote in our poll. Also, if you want to have a question for me to try to answer, we have some questions already coming through. That's fantastic. We also have people connecting to do sustainable business, which is exactly what we love and what we are here to facilitate. Please do ask those questions. I know, Lucy, you've got some for me. Looking forward to that segment. A few dates for your diary now. Sustainability Expo. This is the next edition of Sustainability Live, bigger and better than ever. It was a phenomenally successful event in February. This one on September 7th to 8th, also in London, so easy to fly into, at the Business Design Centre and online. The physical stages being streamed, also with our virtual stages. We have our Scott Birch, our Chief Content Officer, who will obviously be at that too, and he was on the main stage for Sustainability Live last month. If you missed Sustainability Live 2022, then we have a real treat. Grab your popcorn, sit back, and enjoy this after-show video.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day one of Sustainability Live.
How awesome is it to be together under one building?
%61% of the world's population don't have access to waste management infrastructure or recycling infrastructure.
We've got the tools now to avoid the worst climate change scenarios.
ESG for me is not about creating fancy reports and spending all my time on doing that. It's about taking action and doing something.
It's great. It's a great event, very professionally done, and it's wonderful to be able to network with leaders from around the world.
It's a very cool venue and it's just behind our office, so that makes it perfect.
Oh, it's superb. I mean, I hadn't expected the volume of people that we've seen today, so it's great to be back physically meeting people.
We've had some really interesting discussions and heated conversations this morning that's evolving the way we think.
Awesome, just gives you chills. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Make sure that you register to get your tickets for sustainability at sustainability-live.com for the expo in September. You know, that video actually encapsulates the feeling everybody had there. You had all these incredible minds coming together, exchanging ideas. It was just a wonderful. I felt so lucky to actually be involved in it. You know, corporate events like that, they normally have a sort of gradation of people. You know, some people feel more involved than others. This one, everybody there, it was just so involved and engaged. It was just an awesome atmosphere. A real privilege to get to be a part of it. And that's just a fraction of the speakers there. Pippa Bailey from Ipsos Mori's there. Steve Smith, Jennifer, of course, again. But I mean, Oystein from Odfjell, shipping company, sustainability, chief sustainability officer for them. It was just so impactful for how our world works and how the whole thing comes together. Well, look, the time has come to discuss the results of our poll, and here we have them for us. So the options were, you know, what do you think the energy mix outcome will be among countries following the invasion of Ukraine? Gas prices rise, then collapse, 18%. Renewable adoption accelerates, 57%, and the nuclear energy resurgence, 25%. Right, so interesting answers there. I think the unity on the fact that renewable energy adoption is going to really ramp up. I think the recognition, people are now turning their attention to the fact that, okay, well, if things are getting more efficient, marginal more investment, the gains that one expects to see from technological information, from the use of platforms, standardization of technologies, and AI and ML, natural accelerations that they offer. I think that's definitely going to happen. Certainly, they've got the motivations to do it now. Gas prices rise, then collapse. Well, that was either going to be a big one or it was going to be zero. I'm interested it's interesting to see that there's unity in the fact that people, they know the prices are up, right? But they also think now they're going to go down, which sort of spells that people are done with it. They're going to start walking away. And nuclear energy resurgence, about 25%, which is about the energy mix in the UK for nuclear, and what it's likely to be worldwide among the countries willing to invest in it. Politically, it's going to be much more difficult to do that than renewable. Lucy, what would your instinct have been on these answers?
Without just sounding like I'm going with the crowd, I would have actually said that nuclear energy, and that's only because obviously what I've been reading more about in the news recently. So I'm obviously no expert, but that would have been my guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's none of the answers are really wrong. So it's you're forcing the choice. It's about preferences, right? Because so exactly. much something on this scale, it's not hard and fast decisions. It's preferences and trends that they then engender. More comments. Scott Birch, I wonder who that is. He's our Chief Content Officer tuning in from Gloucestershire. and great to also see Helen Adams involved, Garima Shahi. Remember that you can watch all the presentations from Sustainability Live online. Greta has very helpfully put in all the stories that we've covered today, as well as Thomas Saborowski's full keynote presentation in the links. But I believe we're at a new section for the Sustainability Show. Kieran, did you have anything to do with this? I wonder. Welcome to Ask Blaise. Yeah, I shouldn't have let them take that picture.
I love that.
Anyway, well, we have some in the comments here, but Lucy, I believe you get dibs on the questions. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Well, I think probably the most pressing question for me at the moment is just about the fuel in the UK. I know that's probably quite a UK-centric question, but obviously it has an impact around the whole world, I'm sure. Could you just explain a little bit more about this and how this relates to the issues that we see on screen?
Sure. I mean, I think what you find is some countries go very, very hard in, whenever you think of, let's say, a particular energy source, you may think of a particular country that is very, very closely tied to that. For Germany, it's been renewables and gas. For France, it has really been nuclear for some time now. With the UK, it was always more of a mix. The UK is an island. It has offshore resources. It has for a long time. Doesn't have enough for its appetite, but it also is a nuclear power that has always had nuclear plants, but not quite the appetite to be fully reliant on it. This is clearly something that's going to be reassessed because it's also one of the biggest investors, and until recently was the world leader in offshore wind. However, offshore wind is massively underexploited worldwide and is only going to be part of an energy mix as it currently stands. The UK was overtaken by China. I think there's going to be a continued push towards renewables. It's coming through regulation in the UK, and regulation in the UK itself has actually starting to reflect global policy. The reason I say that is we've been talking a lot about energy, right? But social impact, something else. So the Social Value Act, about 10 years ago, we had a feature on this on indirect procurement in this March issue. That came in 10 years ago, and it has changed the way public procurement works, and that will include gas. Because where is the social value argument in relying, for example, on dictatorial regimes and bringing in energy mixes from that? You can promote socially valuable objectives in any country around the world through regular procurement, basically. And in countries that don't have legislation to support this, you're actually seeing the same trend happen. So what I see happening in the UK is, right, there's an instigation here. The Prime Minister is going to go speak to nuclear bosses, say, how do we do this well? How do we do this sustainably? How do we boost renewables? How do we fix this problem? This is now an impetus. It's about political capital to fix the problem. I think we're seeing that worldwide. This invasion, this is the capital to change things forever. It's a horrific thing that it's come to this point, but it seems like it will be a catalyst for action. At least I'm hopeful that it is. I think it's important to look at how we avoid these things in the future, given what everybody, even the unity that we have around this issue. And as far as the rest of Europe goes, well, there's going to be again, try not to get into it. Russia's somewhat spent as a force. Eastern Europe is rapidly modernizing things like data center powers. They're doing it in a fully modern way. They're leapfrogging stages. These are data centers, and these are major infrastructural projects that will be powered as much as possible by renewable energy, by smart grids. You see this in countries like in the Baltic states, in Lithuania, where the countries have built themselves to be as forward-looking and as efficient as possible, and not just an energy mix, just through all, through digital ID schemes, through linking healthcare with digital IDs, through just being extremely efficient. Similar in the Netherlands, and these are the models that large parts of Asia have adopted, some of them even modeled, for example, in Japan and Singapore. And this is also what's going to happen in the Americas, and is starting to happen. Do you feel like that answered your question, Lucy?
Yeah, absolutely. It answers my question above and beyond. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, I do think these topics tend to touch each other. I think One thing that we've had a question come from the comments. Lucy, I wonder if you've seen that I think we had a question about aquaculture.
I haven't actually seen it in the comments.
I think it's from, I want to say who it's from. I had it in front of me and now it's gone. Yeah, you want to ask me that, Lucy?
Oh, where can I find the world's biggest agriculture mega project developers?
Well, so this is very fortuitous. In September, I was a guest of the Indonesian ambassador to Norway at his residence, and while he was there, Indonesia, an enormous archipelago nation in Southeast Asia with tons of waters. A lot of the world's fish comes from there. A lot of Asia's fish, a part of the world that is a huge consumer of seafood. He was there to help facilitate the signing of agreements of projects between Norway and Indonesian companies for aquaculture. Specifically that. I mean, I think a lot of this is going to be happening largely in Asia, India. I think someone tried to answer this question, right? I think they said Bangalore in response to that question. I'm not an expert on the aquaculture in Bangalore, but I do think these mega projects are going to be coming more and more in developing world where they have the infrastructure in place, and it's an alternative to overfishing, which is a huge issue. We're going to keep drawing on the oceans for food. I do think that they happen. In Thailand, there's a huge amount of, for example, prawn farms. We're going to see a lot more of things like this. There's salmon farms all across the American Northwest, but the preference for what is, for example, wild salmon versus farmed salmon, this is a distinction that people are learning to manage. But I'd argue we're probably going to see the biggest ones in the tropics of Africa and Asia. That would be my answer to the question. But food is incredibly important. I think that we've lived with food security now for so long that policies in the developing world that focus on the resiliency and being able to food sovereignty, as it's put, people are now thinking about this more. How can we control this? I think the mega projects really are going to be coming in the biggest from the biggest populations of the developing world. They have the most pressing concern of consistent feeding of their people, but also, aquaculture tends to be a protein source, and increasingly they're moving away from greenhouse gas producing meat. We are looking at alternatives from kelp, for example, seaweed farms. This is a big part of it too. And that's also coming in as a biofuel. It's again, this is where it really comes into, well, what if something becomes food, then becomes food waste, then becomes a biofuel, biomass? This is all evolving so quickly that anywhere where they're trying to adopt a circular approach is going to, which is now everywhere, is going to try to combine all those elements. And I think that's where aquaculture is really heading. If you have a big coastline that's tropical, you can grow things very, very quickly. You can farm, you don't have to rely as much on seasons. So I think that'll generally happen there. Again, I think I jumped around a few topics. Sorry, Lucy.
No, that's perfect. It's always better to over-explain than under-explain on these things, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll tell my wife that. Well, before we go, Lucy, sorry, we spoke a bit about March 8 last time we were on, but you had just launched. So can you tell me about your launch again and tell everybody about March 8 itself and the magazine and what you stand for?
Okay, well, so for those who don't know, March 8 is a platform where we look to educate, motivate, and elevate women in business across the globe. So that doesn't have to be corporate business. It could literally be anything, any dream that these women have. So it could be sportswomen, advocates, activists, just any woman. We want to elevate them, and through our live events and through our publication. So we actually launched on International Women's Day. So that was a little while ago now, but about 2 or 3 weeks. And since then, it's just been fantastic. We've seen such a fantastic response from women from across the globe, and it's been really lovely because it feels like such a unique community, and it's just fantastic. So for those who haven't actually been able to see the magazine yet, thoroughly recommend that you do. We've got some really fantastic stories from one of the first fighter pilots, female fighter pilots for the RAF. And we've also got lots of, I mentioned the net zero piece as well earlier. And we've got some people that have just started up their own business and things like that. So it's as diverse as we can, possibly get with the different stories that we try to cover in such a broad remit. But we've had such a fantastic response, and I'm so proud of it. And even thinking back to the event on International Women's Day, it's one of those pinch me moments that doesn't really feel like it actually happened. It was so lovely. So yeah, we're really looking forward to the next event, which will be happening end of June. And we are also going to be launching the second issue, which will be on May the 8th. So we have that to look forward to as well.
I mean, unbelievable. I know how long you were in the lab on this, along with all your colleagues, Emily, Rebecca, and of course Stacey. Incredible work, and I imagine so satisfying to see it all come together in what is a fantastic event and a fantastic magazine, and tons more to come.
It truly was inspirational, and I think that's really what we wanted to achieve with March 8. It's just to be that platform that shares the story of these women, because I think obviously we are still on the back foot in many respects, and we really just want to give that voice to other people, other women.
Well, fantastic, and it's been wonderful to have you on the show, and long may it be that way, and looking forward to the March 8 show that's coming up too.
Absolutely, yes, that should be on the 4th, so not too long now.
Amazing. Well, that's all we've got time for this episode. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure you tune in again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for interacting with us if watching live, for taking part in the poll, for the comments, for the questions. And remember, this show is available to watch on demand, so please do share it with colleagues and anyone interested in sustainability. Thank you to Lucy for being brilliant again, to Kieran, to Greta, and the rest of the production team. This has been a BizClik Media Group production. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.